Hello, welcome back to our latest We Are Sunderland briefing with myself, Dom Short, and Scott Wilson, both of We Are Sunderland, and I'm going to be blinded by this sun, I can tell, in the next 5 minutes. I haven't got a blind in this room that are recording, and I can just see it creeping round. I'll be shining brightly off my baldy nabber in the next 30
Beautiful.
seconds. Halfway there.
Yes.
We're recording on Monday night. Come close of play on Tuesday night, we'll know, and Sunderland fans will know, whether Wembley hotels need to get booked up for the playoff final. So far, so good. I mean, we'll get into tomorrow night's game. We'll get in to Le Bris's press conference because you've been in the Academy of Light this afternoon, Scott, and sporting to him. But first of all, let's just reflect on Monday.
Yeah.
First of all, fair play Le Bris. Fair play Le Bris and the players, but fair play to Le Bris for having the bravery to make the decisions that he did. And
I think that was it.
I
think my biggest takeaway was exactly that it ultimately was a Regis Le Bris tactical masterclass, and we've seen a few of them this season. But that really was it. I keep harking back to, and maybe this is a bit unfair, but I'd obviously been at Coventry 6 days before that, watching Middlesbrough fail to win on the last day of the season, and to a large extent with Middlesbrough, it kind of felt like, this is harsh in a way, but it felt like, let's just toss the 11 players on the pitch who have been playing for us all season, get them to do what they've been doing all season, and hopefully that might be good enough to get us through. Whereas on Friday night with Regis Le Bris and Sunderland, it was, how are we going to stop Coventry? What's our game plan? What's the little tactical tweaks we're going to make? Let's make sure the players are absolutely on board with it. And it worked to an absolute T, didn't it? I mean, I don't think any of us were expecting the 4-4-2. Even when the team sheet came out, there was a bit of debate about, well, is this Mayenda on the left? Is Lefebvre going to be as a 10? Is that the shuffle? Le Bris comes on Sky. It's going to be 2 up front. Sure enough, it was 2 up front, 4-4-2. I thought defensively, it just meant that Sunderland were able to get 2 banks of 4 back, make the pitch really tight, really compact, funnel Coventry's players into a kind of congested central area where they didn't really want to be, just deny them any space in the final third, sit deep so that Thomas Asante couldn't run in behind them. I thought all of that worked brilliantly. And then obviously, if there was a slight worry in the first half, it was maybe that when Sunderland did actually get the ball, they didn't really do anything with it. And could they hold on to it enough? Well, in the second half, we saw what Sunderland are capable of on the counter-attack, didn't we? Really good goal to open it from Isidore. And then such composure from Mayenda to round it off and finish it off. And in the end, had it finished 1-1, I think it would have been a really positive night for Sunderland. The fact that Mayenda scores and it finishes 2-1 just makes it all that little bit better, doesn't it?
He takes it so well, Mayenda.
I mean, I know not an easy chance.
And I was just going to say, I know it's a gift, but there's an awful lot still to do. Even when he rounds the keeper, he's still outside the box or on the edge of the box.
And that's probably been the one question mark over Mayenda, hasn't it? He's improved so much all season, and we kind of know now that he's got that Bristol City goal in his locker, if you like. He nearly did the same thing in the first half on Friday night. We know he can do that. We know he's got pace. We know he can run at defenders. We know he can cause a real threat on the break and kind of barge his way through and get a shot away. What we haven't probably seen enough of is, in that one chance, is he composed enough to take it? Well, there was only really one chance that came his way on Friday night, and goodness me, he took it, didn't he? Brilliant.
And the same can be said for Isidore, because it had been 12, 13 appearances without a goal, and Le Bris repeatedly said, I'm confident he will be back on, or he'll be scoring again, he'll be on form when we need him. Well, it was the same for Isidore. I mean, the keeper makes a bit of a mess of it, but one chance and he buries it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, the two of them did exactly what Le Bris wanted them to in terms of defending from the front, being the first line of defence for Sunderland. They did that really well all night. They covered so much ground. But then, like you say, fair play to them. When the limited opportunities came their way in the second half, they absolutely made the most of them.
So the obvious question is, having pulled off that masterstroke on Friday night, and we'll get on to Coventry and Lampard and what they might do different and what they might offer on Monday. But with Le Bris having pulled off that masterstroke on Friday night, what does he do on Tuesday? Does he play Mayenda and Isidore again? Does he bring Rig back in and go back to that more orthodox setup that we've seen all season? Remain Mundell's back fit. You've been to the press conference today. What do you expect? Were there any hints? What will he do on Tuesday night?
Yeah, so a couple of things straight away. The back four, I think, will stay the same. I think Ballard was absolutely sensational. Assuming there are no unforeseen injury issues and he's come through the game all right, and certainly the indication today was that everything's okay with him, then I would fully expect Ballard to keep his place. You can definitely argue that that's half on Metham because he's been really good. But I think we've kind of felt deep down all season, haven't we, that when push comes to shove, Ballard is Le Bris's number one defender.
Well, we called it last week, didn't we?
Yeah,
we said we had a feeling that. And
so he starts. Mundell, Le Bris was pretty definitive today, said he'll be in the squad, but he's not ready to start. He's ready for 10, 15, 20 minutes. That might be at the end of normal time if Sunderland need to change things up a bit. It might be an extra time if the game's headed that way. But Mundell will be in the squad, won't start, will be available to come off the bench. Hopefully, will be given Le Bris much more of a selection poser for a final when he will have had another week's training. Agiolese won't be in the squad. He's not ready yet. He has been doing some training, but he's not where Le Bris would feel he'd need to be in the squad. Again, if they were to get to a final with another week's training under his belt, there's a chance that Alese's maybe in a squad and on the bench for a final and there if needed. He won't be in the squad Tuesday night. The other one is the really interesting one, isn't it? Does he stick with the same 4-4-2 formation? That's kind of option one. Just go again. Option two is, does he stick with the same lineup, but maybe tweak it a little bit so that we might see Mayenda on the left or Isidore on the left, and we might see Lafi move across to more of a 10, and it'd be much more of a 4-2-3-1 than a 4-4-2. Or does he bring Chris Rigg back in, go to 4-3-3, which he's been obviously much more of the season, and you would Rigg could come in for Roberts and tighten things up that way, but you would imagine if Rigg would come in, it would be more likely that probably Mayenda drops out, Isidore starts up top, Lafay on the left, Rigg, Bellingham, and Neil as the three, Rigg on the left, Roberts on the right. I half wondered if that would be what he did. When he was talking about Rigg today, it felt like he was talking about him more again as a potential substitute. I came away from the press of the day with the strong impression that we're probably looking at the same lineup. And it wouldn't completely surprise me if we're looking at the same 4-4-2 formation. Now, obviously, we'll get to what Le Bris said about actually how they're going to approach the mindset of the game in a minute. I don't think they'll be sitting anywhere as near as deep. I think they'll want to be more composed on the ball, certainly than they were in the first half. And obviously, we've still got to see what Coventry do. So I don't think it'll just be a case of rinse and repeat, but I'm starting to think we might see the same lineup.
Well, he was absolutely clear in terms of how Sunderland are going to approach the game, regardless of the lineup. He was crystal clear, wasn't he, in terms of how he wants his side to play. We have to try and win, and then we will see at the end. Proactive is the main word. Yeah. Was that the message throughout today?
That was. He must have said the word proactive about 6 times, and I don't think I've ever heard him say it before in a press conference. So clearly that was something that he was absolutely wanting to get across. Now, that doesn't mean Sunderland are going to go hell for leather. It doesn't mean that they're going to be throwing 5 men up front and let's win this 5-3. You know what I mean? We're not talking that. But I think what he wanted to get across was, if we go into this game with the mindset that we've just got to keep Coventry out, we'll lose the game. We have to play our game. Now, what's our game look like? Well, we'll see that. We know what Le Bris is like. He will have a clearly defined tactical plan that he wants his players to enact. Like I say, that might be the same tactical plan or a slightly modified version of what happened on Friday. I suspect it'll be, like I say, a little bit more progressive in terms of what Sunderland look to do when they have the ball and how many players they commit to those attacks. But whatever that tactical plan is, a big part of it will revolve around Sunderland looking to cause Coventry problems rather than just sitting and soaking up wave after wave after wave of pressure and saying, right, we'll go 5 at the back, we'll put extra defenders in, we'll just string men across our 18-yard box. I think what Le Bris is saying is, look, you can do that for 5 minutes at the end of a game, maybe. You can't do that for 90 minutes. That will not get you through. We have to look to play our game and ask questions of Coventry. And like I say, that might mean playing on the break. It might mean soaking up pressure and looking to hit Coventry as they did in the second half. But whatever Le Bris thinks is the best way to get at that Coventry offence, it's going to be more. Sunderland are going to be looking to do more than simply contain Coventry.
How was Lampard after the game on Friday? I'm just reading there what you've written today that he said ahead of the game. So 2 things, I guess, for Coventry and Lampard. First of all, inevitably, he is going to be asked and was asked immediately after the game on Friday and was quite dismissive of it. The Derby thing at Leeds, when Derby lost the first leg and went to Ellen Road. Well, I almost think playing against Leeds at Ellen Road in a playoff it's such a one-off because of everything that surrounds Leeds United. Yeah. And Lampard actually said that, didn't he? Lampard said different time. But there's that. And a couple of years ago, Coventry drew 0-0 with Borough in the first leg at Coventry's ground, but then came back to the Riverside, won 1-0, and obviously advanced to the final. And that was when they lost in the final. So Lampard he's said today everything you'd expect him to say ahead of the game. But there are 2 examples that he will call on, I'm sure, won't he, in his message to the players ahead of the game. Yeah, and
I did feel that immediately after the game on Friday, and obviously we see the managers pretty quickly, so I thought he was very downbeat. Now, he's going to be, isn't he? They've just lost at home, but I almost felt that he was kicking himself for the fact, this is what I read into it, that he was kicking himself for the fact that Sunderland had got one over on him, that he hadn't anticipated the tactics or the lineup or the way that Sunderland would do it. He kind of kept repeatedly saying, how they'd set up defensively and they'd done a really good job at that. And Coventry, they hadn't really been able to outthink that. And I think in the immediate aftermath, he felt that a chance had got away. Maybe Coventry's best chance had got away, and that it had largely got away because he hadn't foreseen the way that Sunderland were going to set up and approach that game. Now, obviously, we're 3 days on now. The dust settled. He's drawn a line under that. And like you say, it's very much the messaging from Lampard now is there's a game to be won. We're still right in this. We're only 1 goal down. It's only half time. There'll be loads of twists and turns, etc., etc. And I completely agree with that. This game isn't done quite clearly. I think it's interesting. It's still interesting how the Coventry approach this because they've got to win the game, but they've got 90 minutes to win it in, haven't they? And I think if you're Lampard, your first priority is not to lose this game in the first 15, 20 minutes, isn't it? Because if Sunderland come out like a house on fire, it's, the sold out signs have just gone up, haven't they? So the club have confirmed at the Stadium of Light. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Coventry cannot afford to ship 2 goals in the first, quarter of this game because otherwise that's it. The tie's put to bed. So given the fact, for all that Le Bris has talked about being proactive and everything, given that we know at heart Le Bris is a pretty pragmatic coach, and I think his first priority will just be to ease Sunderland into the game and not do anything stupid early on, I think we might see a really cagey opening. I think the first half, I could be completely wrong here. Wouldn't surprise me if there was barely a shot on target. I think it'll be cagey. I think both sides will feel their way into it. And then obviously the longer the game progresses, the more things open up, the more it will then become a contest. And obviously the longer it stays level, or if Sunderland can get themselves ahead, then at some stage, Lampard is going to have to decide when he pushes the button, isn't he? Because Coventry are going to have to go for this at some point, if the scores are level or if they're behind. But I don't think that'll be right from kickoff, do you?
No. I mean, I think if you're Lampard, it has the makings of being one of the great Stadium of Light nights, doesn't it? Sold out ground, bouncing atmosphere, an advantage from the first leg. Wembley awaiting the winner. This young, energetic team that are so vibrant and good to watch when they're on song. But I think if you're Lampard, you say, get the place nervous, get the place anxious, don't you? Get to half time. And I think if Lampard was offered 0-0 at half time, he'd snap your hand off.
Yeah, I do. I do. And I do. And I think the flip side of that is I don't think he'd snap your hand off, but I don't think Le Bris would be devastated.
Well, I was just going to say that, but I think Le Bris takes it as well, because at some stage then Coventry will have to start taking risks. Coventry at some stage are going to have to start gambling, providing they don't get an early goal, which would obviously be the worst possible scenario for Sunderland. But the longer it goes on, yes, there'd understandably be a bit of tension, but Coventry would then have to start committing bodies, and that would play into Sunderland's hands, especially if you've got Romain Mundle sat there ready to come on with a game stretched and against tired legs.
You know the threat that you've got there with Mayenda and Isidore. We've already seen that. You know the balls that Lefay can pick out to get them kind of released and get them going. So I clearly if the game's in the 89th minute and it's 0-0, we bite our nails and all sorts. But I think Le Bris will be more than happy with 0-0 for the vast majority of this night, because, like you say, all the questions then are being asked of Coventry, aren't they?
Amazing what one result can do in terms of the mood, isn't it? So just like looking through the comments of our video last week, of our preview video on pod before the first leg, and there was understandably a whole lot of concern, not a lot of optimism. And why would there be on the back of 5 straight defeats? Fair play again, like we said at the start, for Le Bris and his players, for dealing with that, for not panicking, for not buying into the momentum worries and all that, and for delivering what has to be one of the best performances in the circumstances, undoubtedly one of the best performances of the season.
Yeah, and I think that, that we have to put that to bed now, don't we? Anything can happen tomorrow night. Let's hope we all hope it doesn't. If things go horribly wrong tomorrow night, then I think we can still categorically say that won't be because Sunderland lost those 6 games before the first leg of the playoff semi-final. The fact that they came out with such intensity, with such aggression, with such organisation, with such commitment, with such fitness towards the end of the game, I think all of that more than justifies Le Bris's actions in this last month. And yes, we were concerned about it. Fans were worried. Fans who paid good money to go down to Bristol and all of that were not particularly happy with the way that all of that was handled. I get all of that. I absolutely do. But steadfastly throughout that, Le Bris was saying, look, judge me on what happens in these playoff games. I'm convinced this is the right thing to do. Well, like I say, win, lose or draw tomorrow, I think it's been proven to be the right thing to do. Or at the very least, Sunderland's performance levels and results haven't suffered because of it, have they? You've got to say that.
So it's Monday tea time now. So we're not going to preview the final, the other championship, the other championship semi-final, second leg, which takes place on Monday night, because there's every chance you're going to watch this on Tuesday morning or listen to this on Tuesday morning. But I think we're safe to say Sheffield United await the winners. But Wembley,
barring something absolutely ridiculous, like you say, we'll leave ourselves to be a hostage to fortune. But something's going to have to go monumentally wrong for Sheffield United to fail that. So, listen, if it's Sheffield United Sunderland, that is a proper final, isn't it? That's going to be a right weekend down in London. And it's going to be a proper game. It'll be a belter, like.
Who will it be then? Will it be Sheffield United Sunderland? What's your prediction for?
I do. So I think, going off the back of what I kind of was saying before, I think 0-0 at half-time, cagey, not an awful lot in it, very few openings, very few efforts on goal. Still 0-0 on the hour mark. Coventry then having to gradually start throwing more men forward. 72 minutes, Mayenda, 1-0. Sunderland win 1-0, 3-1 at aggregate. That'd do, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think Sunderland will win. I think Sunderland will win. I'm not sure whether they'll win on Tuesday night, but I think they'll qualify. I don't know whether
nervous bits along the way, or
I have a feeling Coventry might score first.
oh, that would set it off, wouldn't it? Do you?
Yeah, but I think Sunderland will. I don't. I know this. You know, this is what Sunderland scored 1 in 6 before the playoffs. So this sounds daft and based on nothing. But I fancy Sunderland to score. I think I fancy Sunderland to score over the course of the 90 minutes. I don't think Coventry will score 2 over the course of the 90 minutes. That's about as basic.
You're edging towards 1-1 then, aren't you?
I think I'm going 1-1. Yeah, I think I'll go 1-1.
Well, I'll go 1-0. Either way, we're hitting yes on that. Do you want to confirm the hotel room on the final whistle, aren't we?
And there'll be plenty of good content coming up before, hopefully, a playoff final. And our offers running across the bottom of the screen there. It is just £1 for 6 months to subscribe to We Are Sunderland, which gets you behind the scenes, insight, interviews, features. There'll be plenty there in the build-up to a playoff final, if there's one there, which will hopefully be the case over the next 10 days. I just hope I'm not going to have to chop that out now at that last bit. If doesn't go to plan, to save the inevitable deluge of Coventry City comments in the in the sections. We'll see. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're both there on Tuesday night. There'll be plenty of coverage and analysis from the Stadium Malay, both on the night and in the days that follow. Enjoy the game if you're there. Take care.